Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Kristen and I'm back. Today I'm going to be going over my May recap with you guys, so let's get started. Okay, so I am back. I'm trying to do my monthly recaps, my TBRs, everything. So getting back into the swing of things, and May was a pretty good reading month. I'm so excited for the summer because I feel like I'm gonna get to read a good bit. I'm behind on my Goodreads challenge, so I'm trying to catch up on that, and I'm hoping that June will be that month where I can catch up. But May wasn't too bad, so I wanted to go over those with you guys and share what I read in the month of May. So the first thing is The Viscount Who Loved Me. This is number 2 in the Bridgerton series, and yes, after watching Bridgerton, I jumped on the bandwagon. I went and got the first book. I read the first book. This, like I said, is the second in the series, and this one is about the oldest brother, Anthony, who's the Viscount, and his love story. Now, I'm gonna say that if you're looking for smutty, like the Bridgerton series type of smutty, these books are not it. They definitely upped that a lot in the TV series or the series on Netflix. They definitely played that up a lot. There's some stuff in here, but nothing at all even close to what's in the series. So if you're reading it just for the smuttiness, this is just not for you, I'm gonna say. But it was really good. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, mainly because I feel like the plots for the first and the second one are very, very similar. I did love the new characters that were introduced in this book. I was totally invested, I think even more, in the main female character in this book than I was in the first book. So I'm definitely going to say that. I love the new characters. I'm more invested in Anthony after reading this book. But to me, the storylines were similar. It still was really well written. It still had some funny anecdotes in it. It still was a great book. But I just felt like there were too many similarities between the first and second love stories. So that's why I gave it 4 out of 5 and not 5 out of 5 stars. But I do love the way that Julia Quinn writes. I have really enjoyed it, and I do plan on reading the rest of the series because I just love her writing style. And I don't really read a lot from this time period that I actually love, and I really, really, really have enjoyed this series so far. So I'm going to do the next 3 books all together because they are finally ending up. I finally ended the Throne of Glass series with these 3 books, which I have been working on forever. And I'm going to go on and say that I rated all of them 5 out of 5 stars because I have fallen in love with this series. After reading this series, I am more of a Throne of Glass girl than I am an ACOTAR girl. I don't know if that's gonna get me some, I don't know, flack for that, but I really, 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 really love this series. I do see it as a series that I will come back to for sure, just like Harry Potter, but definitely gonna probably read these again. But I did give it 5 out of 5 stars. After reading Empire of Storms, and everything kind of coming to a head at the end of that, leaving with the hugest cliffhanger possible, and just being what the crud is happening, not knowing what's gonna happen, and just reading about Aelin's plan and everything that she has had going on in the works, that she really hasn't been telling people. It's crazy. And then when I started to read what Tower of Dawn was about, I was like, oh, you have got to be kidding me. Because Tower of Dawn does not follow Aelin and Rowan and Dorian and Manon. It follows Cal and new characters, Yrene. So So I was a little peeved and a little bit like, this is going to suck. Like, I am going to have to take a pause from this storyline when it ended on such a crazy note and go into this book that's not going to give me any answers from this book. But I still loved it. I am going to be one of those people who says you do not skip this book. It's very important. I would not skip it, and I would read it in order. I just would, don't skip it. That's all I have to say about that, because there are new characters introduced that I feel like are very important, especially in the last book. And if you haven't following Cal, like, why would you not want to continue with his story and find out what happens with him? And I did. I loved it. It didn't bother me too bad, although it is a very thick book. I was like, oh my gosh. But it didn't bother me too bad to take the hiatus and read this book to get the storyline. That would end up happening in the last book. Now, this one I gave 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it, but I will say that, oh my gosh, I just felt like it was so long, and at times I was like, oh, can we just get to the main conflict? Can we just find out what's going to happen? I'm so sick of battles and wars that are all ending up the same. So I will say that at times I was getting more frustrated because it is a longer book, but it didn't take away from the actual like storyline or anything like that. I just struggle with long books. Like, I've already decided that in June, most of my books are short because these were so long and they took me forever, and I struggle with longer books. I struggle to stay focused. I struggle to stay invested, but I did really love it, and I cried. I'm gonna go on and say this. I don't know if it makes me crazy, but I cried quite a few times in this book. I'm not talking like sobbing tears, but I'm like reading it and there are tears throughout this book, and I hate that it ended, but I love how it ended, and I'm okay with it. And I just loved this whole world that Sarah J. Maas created for this series, and like I said, it's going to be one that I keep coming back to. I love it. I highly recommend it to anyone that loves fantasy, but also be aware of the insane amount of smut in it. And I will say, like, I started reading Sarah J. Maas and I wasn't expecting it. I don't know why, but then I was like, oh, okay. And now I'm used to it. And I kind of enjoy it. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna lie. But I loved this series. I'm sad that it ended, but I'm glad I finally finished it after trying to finish it for forever. But all in all, this whole series, like 10 out of 10. Like, I can't even. I love it so much, and I'm so glad that I'm finally done reading it. And then last was The War Outside. This one I actually read last minute, like kind of binged it, so it didn't even make it on like my month end post on Instagram about it, but because it was just so last minute, I needed something that was a little heavier, that was short, that I could binge. And The War Outside is set during World War II, but it is actually set in an American internment camp for Germans and Japanese, and which is something you don't really see in books a lot. We don't hear about it a lot, but there were internment camps in America, and it's a dark part of our history that I don't think is shed light on a lot. And so I was really interested to read this one because of that. And now I kind of think that I want to go in and I want to know more after reading this book, because like, that is a dark part of our history we don't talk about. People, like, in the back of this book she's talking about, there were people who lived in the city that this is based in that didn't even know that there was an internment camp there. And although it wasn't like you would think, like, it wasn't like the Jewish camps like in Germany, obviously, but it still were pretty much Americans who were of Japanese descent and of German descent. Some of them who like had very flimsy cases against them for being enemies of the state, and their families basically being prisoners. And yes, they had a pool, and they had shops, and they had schools, they had football teams and things like that. But they still lived within barbed wire fences. They still weren't allowed to leave. They still left most of their things behind and lived in one-room huts. And it's awful to think about, and it's horrible to think about. And so this book was really interesting to me, but I only gave it 3 out of 5 stars because the storyline for me really fell flat. It just didn't capture me. I feel like there's a lot you could do with this, but I just didn't. It didn't catch me. I don't know. It's the story about 2 girls, one German, one Japanese, who are unlikely friends. And it talks about and goes through like things that are happening in the camp with their families, and how they ended up there, where they go after, that kind of thing. But I don't know, the story just left something to be desired for me, and so that's why I gave it 3 out of 5 stars. It just wasn't a great storyline. But I do think that the placement of the story and everything, the setting and the time period and everything, really got me interested in learning more about the American internment camps. So those were my May reads. It was a pretty good month. I needed one to binge at the end because, like I said, Throne of Glass is just those are really long books. And June, I'm probably going to stick with some shorter books so I can actually finish more, because I need to get ahead because I'm super behind on my reading challenge for the year. I think I'm like 3 books behind, so I've got to catch up. So I'm on a reading sprint. But all in all, I thought May went really well. I got to read quite more than I have this year because it's been a crazy year. But hoping this summer I really get to dive in and I really get to read more and just sit down and maybe get back to my 10 per month. You know, that would be awesome. I know that's really like ambitious, but it would be awesome. So anyways, I hope you guys enjoy your summer and check back with me weekly for more videos. I'll catch you guys next time.